Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Learning Junction. Today we are going to discuss Mrichchhkatika by Sudraka. It is also known as the Little Clay Card, which is a classical Sanskrit drama of 10 acts. Here to start with, we have to have at least little knowledge of the writer. Sudraka was a great ruler, a statesman, a scholar, thinker, king of Matsya dynasty, or a nobleman. If we go to refer different books, we have different information of the centuries. Some places it is mentioned as it is written in 3rd century. In few books it is mentioned that it was written in 5th century CE. Mrichchhkatika is a play of romance, comedy, tragedy and social commentaries. And if we look upon to the cultural significance, it is mainly about caste, class and morality. Moving further with the characters, all the characters are not that important. Study only the important characters. First of all, we have Charudatta, the protagonist, a noble and generous Brahmin who has fallen into poverty due to his selfless generosity. Charudatta represents virtue, morality and selflessness. Despite his struggle, his character is defined by his unwavering ethics and compassion. Next, we have Rohasena, Charudatta's young son. Rohasena's innocence and affection for his father add emotional depth to the play, especially in scenes where Charudatta's poverty affects his family. Maitreya is Charudatta's loyal friend and companion. Maitreya provides comic relief in the play while also highlighting Charudatta's virtues through his loyalty and humorous observations. Next, we have Vasantasena, a wealthy and beautiful courtesan who fall in love with Charudatta. Vasantasena symbolizes love, devotion and generosity. Her character challenges societal stereotype as she chooses love and virtue over wealth and power. Next, we have Sanstanaka, the main antagonist, a crude and corrupt man who is the brother-in-law of the king. Sanstanaka embodies greed, arrogance, and the abuse of power. His obsession with Vasantasena and his schemes to harm Charudatta's drive much of the conflict in the play. Next, we have Sarvilaka, a thief who steals Vasantasena's jewels to free his lover Madanika. Sarvalika subplot adds complexity to the play. Though a thief, his intentions are noble, showcasing themes of love and sacrifice. Next, we have Madanika, Vasantasena's maid servant and Sarvilaka's lover. Madanika reflects loyalty and devotion. Her relationship with Sarvilaka mirrors the love story of Charudatta and Vasantasena on the smaller scale. Further, we have Aryaka, a rebel leader who escapes imprisonment and later overthrows the corrupt king. Aryaka's subplot symbolizes political change and justice. His rise parallels the moral victory of Charudatta and Vasantasena. Next, we have Vita and Cheta, Sanstanaka's companion. They add humor and highlight Sanstanaka's folly through their interaction and flattery. Next, we have King Palaka, the corrupt and oppressive ruler of Ujjaini. Though a mere character, King Palaka represents a tyranny and injustice that Aryaka ultimately overthrows. Other supporting characters are Chandranaka and Viraka, guards who played a role in Aryaka's escape. Radhanika, a servant in Charudatta's house, highlighting his household simplicity and loyalty. Next, we have Shakara. I just have put a slash next to Samstanaka. Just mention that it is a separate character. He is an associate of Sanstanaka. His role is to assist Sanstanaka in his malicious plans, further emphasizing the antagonist. And at the end, we have Bhikshu who saves Vasantasena's life in the garden. Next, we have themes. First of all, we have love, devotion and sacrifice. The central theme revolves around the pure and selfless love between Charudatta, a noble but impoverished Brahmin, and Vasant Sena, a wealthy courtesan. Their love transcends social norms, wealth, and status, showcasing that true love is based on virtue and emotional connection rather than material possession. Next, we have virtue versus wealth. The play contrasts the virtue of a poor Charudatta with a greed and moral corruption of a wealthy Sanstanaka. It emphasized that true richness lies in a moral value like generosity and compassion rather than material wealth. Next, we have social inequality and class critique. Sudraka critiques the rigid social hierarchy and class system. Vasant Sena, despite being wealthy, faces discrimination due to her status as a courtesan, while Charudatta, though virtuous, suffers because of his poverty. The play gives voice to the marginalized and highlights the humanity of courtesan, thieves, and servants. Next is justice and injustice. The judicial system flaws and the corruption of power are central to the plot, especially in Charudatta's wrongful trial and sentencing. The ultimate triumph of justice with the exposure of Sanstanaka's crimes and Charudatta's vindication reinforces the hopes that truth and righteousness prevail in the end. Next is a political resolution and freedom. The subplot involves Aryaka, the rebel leader, symbolizes the fight against a tyranny and oppression. His rise to power parallels the theme of moral and social justice in the main plot. Next, we have generosity and sacrifice. Characters like Charudatta and Vasant Sena demonstrate selflessness and generosity. Charudatta sacrifices his comfort for others, and Vasant Sena gives up her wealth and social standing for love. Even Sarvalika, a thief, still for a noble cause, to buy the freedom of his beloved Madanika. Next, we have the role of fate and karma. The play reflects Indian philosophical idea of karma, where God deeds leads to eventually rewards and evil deeds to punishment. Charudatta's righteousness save him, while Sanstanaka faces the consequences of his action. Next, we have humor and humanity. Despite its serious theme, the play incorporates humor, especially through characters like Maitreya and Sanstanaka's comical arrogance. It portrays its character with humanity, making even minor figures relatable and multidimensional. A play is starting with a prologue, that is the preface or the introduction, which is done by the Sutradhar or the Stapaka, addressing to the audience about the setting and the context. And the key elements of the prologue are the introduction of the characters, introductions of the play's theme, and the direct address to the audience about the play. These are the 10 acts, starting with the first, that is the prelude of poverty, second, the meeting of the hearts, the third, the thief, fourth, we have the generous courtesan, fifth, the meeting in the garden, sixth, the misunderstanding, seventh, the murderous plot, eighth, the trial, ninth, the redemption, and tenth, the happy resolution. Starting with the first act, the prelude of poverty, the play begins by introducing Charudatta, a noble but impoverished Brahmin merchant living in Ujjaini. His wealth has dwelled due to his generosity, leaving him struggling to maintain his household. Maitreya, his loyal friend, often complain about his hardship. Meanwhile, Vasant Sena, a wealthy and beautiful courtesan, enter the story. She values love and virtue over wealth. She becomes captivated by Charudatta's reputation for generosity and nobility. Vasant Sena, while fleeing from Sanstanaka, the villainous brother-in-law of the king Palaka, finds refuge in Charudatta's house. Sanstanaka crude and arrogant, has been forcing his attention on her, but she escaped his clutches. The second act is a meeting of hearts. Vasant Sena, impressed by Charudatta's kindness and morality, begins to develop feeling for him. She leaves her jewelry in his care as a token of trust and love. Charudatta is reluctant to accept Vasant Sena's affection due to his poverty, is persuaded by her sincerity, love transcending social barriers, trust, and generosity. The third act is The Thief. Sarvalika, a Brahmana of Ujjaini, fall in love with a maid servant of Vasant Sena, Madanika. Since she was a slave, to relieve her from there, he wanted gold to pay on behalf of her and marry her. Since he was poor, he became thief to rob the required gold to buy the freedom of his lover. One night he steals Charudatta's house and take away all the jewelry which Vasant Sena had given it to Charudatta. The fourth act, The Generous Courtesan. Sarvalika tell Madanika to buy her required freedom with the jewelry that he had stolen from Charudatta's house. He tells Madanika that he had stolen from Charudatta's house, and in return Madanika recognized that those other jewelry belonged to Vasant Sena. She tell him to return it back, otherwise he would have been punished, and she returned all the ornaments. What Charudatta does it that he wanted to give his wife's necklace in order to cover up with all his jewelry. She was very happy with the gift of loyalty and nobility of Charudatta's love. The fifth act is a meeting in the garden. Here the scene shifts when Charudatta's son was crying because he was given the earthen toy cart instead of golden, and he wanted the golden cart. And what Vasant Sena does it, she gives all the jewelry to Rohasena to get a golden toy cart, and he was very happy. Here, Vasant Sena and Charudatta arrange a meeting in the garden. This act is filled with romantic exchanges as they express their love for each other. Meanwhile, political tension is introduced with the rise of Aryaka, a rebel who seeks to overthrow the corrupt king Palaka. Since Vasant Sena was ready to go in the garden, her carriage get exchanged. She sits in the carriage of Samsthanaka, and Aryaka sits in the carriage of Vasant Sena. The Vardhamanaka, the servant of Charudatta, thinks that Vasant Sena had sat in his carriage. On the way, he recognized that it is Aryaka, the prisoner who tried to escape from the prison of Palaka, and Vardhamanaka tried to save his life later. The sixth act is The Misunderstanding. Servant Vardhamanaka reaches the garden. Charudatta was waiting for Vasant Sena. He found that instead of Vasant Sena, it was Aryaka. What he does is that he later on tried to save Aryaka, and he also returned back home. In the meantime, Vasant Sena arrived at the garden in the luxurious chariot of Sansthanaka. The seventh act is The Murder Plot. Here comes one more character, that's a bhikshu. He was a gambler turned into monk who had come at the particular area for his work. Is forcefully driven away by Sansthanaka. Sansthanaka was waiting for the prisoner Aryaka, but he was very much surprised to see Vasant Sena inside his chariot. Since he was very much obsessed with Vasant Sena, he was very happy to see her in the garden. What he tells Vita and Cheta, his companion, to strangle her and leave her on the ground. She falls unconsciously on the ground, and they thought that she is dead. When Sansthanaka leaves the area, Bhikshu come again at the same area to complete his work. But he finds Vasant Sena, and he takes her along with him to treat her. The eighth act, The Trial. Here, the Charudatta is put on trial for the murder of Vasansena. As a proof of murder, the guard has been brought in the court so that they can tell who was sitting in which carriage. Even the dead body had been checked from the garden, which was taken by Bhikshu. Despite his innocence, the corrupt court sentences him to death. This act highlights the flawed judicial system and the social inequalities of the time. At the same time, Maitreya bring Vasansena's jewelry that she had given to Rohasena to make his golden cut, but judge declared him guilty and sentenced to punish. Ninth act, the redemption. Court punishes Charudatta and he is taken for punishment. Charudatta's family members, along with his son Rohasena, come at the same place to meet him for the last time. The same news reaches to Bhikshu and Vasansena, and both of them arrived at the same place where he was about to executed. Vasansena appears alive, stopping the execution just in time. She testifies against Sanstanaka, exposes his crime. The truth vindicates Charudatta's, and Sanstanaka is punished. Tenth and the last scene, the happy resolution. The play concludes with a series of reconciliation and happy outcomes. Aryaka successfully overthrown the king and rewards Charudatta for his virtues. Vasansena and Charudatta unites, symbolizing the triumph of love and justice. Thank you guys for watching my videos. Please do like and share with your friends.